Okay, so we'll go to page 133. Chapter 13, page 133, a promise to yourself, healer's oaths. Okay, so how many of you are clear you want to take self-healer's initiation? Raise your hands. You're clear you want to take self-healer's initiation. Great. How many of you want to take healer's initiation, healing others? Raise your hand. Okay, raise your hand if you didn't raise your hand for both the questions. So all of us raised hand for one of the questions. Great. So this oath chapter is all the three oaths apply to people who are taking initiation to heal others. Okay, only I think one oath will apply to people who are self-healers. So these oaths are, you're like literally committing this oath at the master's feet, right? So please take it very seriously as you're taking the oath intensely, be in a connecting prayerful mood as you take these oaths. Okay, so Vipulji, she saw you, no? You feeling better? Okay. So we'll go over first this thing over drinking, smoking, eating. Is everybody in that page? No? Yes? No? Chapter 13, 1-3, page number 133. It's a little slightly different page in some books again. What is the page number? Chapter 13? 142. Okay. In it should either be on 133 or 142. You got it? Okay. So before we get into the oath, we'll quickly read over the note on drinking and smoking and all. All discipline should happen with understanding. Be clear why you are doing what you're doing. When things are very clear, when you understand the rules and regulations, they will not be a burden for you. When you don't understand only, it becomes a burden for you. Nothing should be practiced as a rule. Everything should be done by understanding and by internalizing. Why no to drinking, smoking or eating non-vegetarian food after healer's initiation? Why do I say that you should not drink or smoke or eat non-vegetarian food after taking healer's initiation? Please be very clear, it is not morality I am trying to impose on you. When you meditate and practice healing, you will have a beautiful and continuous energy flow. In that high level of energy, if you drink the low energy alcohol and this high energy of meditation would oppose each other. Alcohol is considered to be one of the substances which has very low energy, as a substance, as it's a matter, isn't it? Everything is matter, right? Alcohol is matter. It's a matter or a substance which has very low energy. So that low energy and the high energy which is happening inside your body because of the healer's initiation, because of your regular meditation practices, that would oppose each other. So indulging in these practices creates a negative energy in the body. And when you do Shakti Dharana meditation after that, the negative energy is in fact awakened. Shakti Dharana meditation is what you will learn today night. It's one of the most powerful meditation techniques you can ever come across. So powerful, I can't tell you. Very, very powerful, and one of the simplest meditations, one of the easiest meditations. Doesn't need any postures, doesn't need asanas, doesn't need any space. On the bed you can do. It's one meditation which you can happily do on your bed and sleep. You can do it in your night dress. That is the best I like about Shakti Dharana. Doesn't need any formal, clothes and attire. Nicely in your night dress, in your night gown, you can do and go to sleep. Very simple. We'll learn today night. So when you do that meditation enhances the energy flow in you tremendously. So if there is a negative energy flow in you, it will enhance that. On the contrary, if there is an expansive energy flow in you, it will enhance that. So when you are drinking, eating and doing these things and healing at the same time, it's a contradictory energy flow that starts happening inside you. So that is why he is saying don't have any of these habits, especially when you take on healing others. All these things are a commitment by you to yourself. You have to make it as an understanding and internalization within yourself. I don't want you to suppress yourself. If you cannot drop smoking or drinking easily, then it is okay. It is okay to do what? It is okay to take self-healer's initiation. Otherwise, when he says don't take the initiation, what he means is don't take initiation to heal others. No, because only healing others needs these practices of not smoking, not drinking and all that. So before taking, think once more if you would be able to do this in a casual way, and you should not be left in a position to fight with yourself. Do you fight with yourself for drinking poison is what Swamiji is asking you. Obviously the answer is no, because you know it is not good for you. Same way, understand and internalize that drinking, smoking or eating non-vegetarian food also opposes the beautiful energy flow in you, which will start happening through healing. Is this clear? Yeah, any questions on this? Okay. So shall we take the oaths? So as we read out the oaths, I want all of us to read it aloud. Okay, after I read the oath aloud. First, let us just discuss the oath before we take the oath. Let me read it out for you. Let us now get into the 3 healing prayer practitioners' oaths. Why is it necessary to take an oath? An oath is a promise to yourself, to your own consciousness. So more than a promise to anybody else, you're making this promise to your own self. The oath number 1 says, I hereby swear that the healing meditation given to me by the Master will be used for the service of all, both animate and inanimate. So if you are choosing to heal others, you will take this oath saying, I choose to heal all beings without any discrimination. You cannot say, except mother-in-law, I'll heal the whole world. You cannot say when your husband comes, idiot, you fought with me last night, I will not heal you, get lost. So you cannot do that. See, just like in the profession of doctors, you are bound by ethics. A doctor cannot refuse treatment to anyone. Even if a terrorist has come as a patient, ethics speak about you have to treat them, right? Because there's no identity that you will associate with. Same way, even when you are healing others, you cannot use discrimination. You have to be impartial and heal whatever comes to your breathing space requesting for healing. Clear? Yes? All the healers healing others, is this clear? Ready to take this oath? So you cannot say, except this fellow, I will heal everybody else. You are my enemy, I will not heal you. Go. You can't do that. Okay? While healing, everybody has to be treated equally, and you should stand as a nothing, allowing the Master's energy to reach out to whatever is in front of you. Okay? So please take this oath aloud after me. I hereby swear. Please say it loudly, and it's like you're telling it to Swamiji directly, right? I hereby swear that the healing meditation given to me by the Master will be used for the service of all, both animate and inanimate. Okay, once again, people who are self-healers will not take this oath, because there's no question of you healing others, no? Self-healers will be healing themselves. Do we get this? So self-healers need not take this oath. All others, all people who are taking healing others must take this oath. So please repeat once again after me. I hereby swear that the healing meditation given to me by Master will be used by the service, for the service of all, both animate and inanimate. Is this oath clear? Yes? Are you committing to stick given to this oath and, comply to this oath? Okay. Then go to the next page. Next page actually. Flip 2 pages. Page number 139 in some books. Oath 2. 148. Page number 148 in some books. Page number 139 in some books. Oath 2. Is everybody on that page? Are we on Oath 2? Oath 2 says, I hereby swear I will serve regularly and voluntarily at the Nitya Spiritual Healing Centers or start a healing center at home. Now what is a healing center? Again, this is only for people who are taking on healing others. You will have a healing center only if you are taking on healing others. Healing center is nothing but a space that you will earmark. If possible, you will put aside some space in your homes or in a place regularly where you go, maybe at your office or your home or your business place, where you can put aside a small place. When I say place, literally small, or table and 2 chairs is enough, where you will have, see, this photograph will be given to everybody. Whether you're a self-healer or healing others, this photograph, do you see, this is known as the Anandagandha photograph of Swamiji. This is the healing photograph of Swamiji. Like this is used for by all healers in their healing centers. Without the frame, the photo will be given to you. You can frame it or you can use it at the space where you are going to commit to heal others. So for example, in my house, if I mark a small space in my drawing room, let us say, where I can actually I can share with my friends and family that now I am open to I am a healer. Anyone who needs healing can come for healing. When they come, in that place I'll have this photo, I'll make them sit and I will do the healing. Whenever people come to and request me for healing. Now it may not be possible for many of us to have such a space in our home or office. That is fine. As long as you have a commitment to go to the nearest center regularly to be of service for healing. Meaning if you have a temple or an ashram nearby and they ask you, they request you to come over to heal someone, you should be in a position to say yes and make it possible. Unless of course you have a conflicting schedule, that is okay. But at least on a regular basis, once in 2 weeks or once in a month, you should be able to go and provide healing to others. Do we get this? That is what this oath says. Clear? Any questions? So either regularly you can heal at home. You can have anyone come and request you healing. There are many people who open healing centers. Meaning they'll just put a small board, Nitya Spiritual Healing Center. You see there are small boards which speak about, healing, prayer clinics and all like that. If that's a possibility, you can do that. Or you can offer your services as a healer at the nearest center. You can go and volunteer in healing camps. You can volunteer in the nearest ashram or temple for maybe an hour every weekend. You will go there and you will say, this hour I am open for healing. So anyone who comes there you can heal them. Additionally, what I used to do before I came to the ashram, every day after work I would go to all the hospitals nearby in my area. I had like some 3-4 hospitals in my vicinity, and somehow all hospital requests, I realized that I was so interested and I would also receive requests like that. People would request somewhere, some healer from some area would know the patient in the hospital. They would call me and say such and such person in such and such a ward needs your help, needs healing, and I would go and give healing. After work, I'll go one hospital to the other hospital. Going healing people in ICU wards, on the bed, in many different units. There was a cancer hospital nearby, so at one point I was 3 cancer patients I was healing. Then there was another hospital which was dealing with it was an orthopedic hospital, so there 2 patients like that. All were close by to my house. I would go from one place to other actually healing for people who are requesting healing. So this is basically that. Hospital will not allow it. Hospital, if they allow it, you can go, but it's not the hospital is not requesting me. The people who are admitted in the hospital, some relatives know someone in the center, they know someone, through somebody else the request will come. So any one of us who's close by will go and do the healing. So this was like word to word somebody knows. The doctors may or may not know. It's like you're just going in the outpatient hours, visiting the person and also healing and coming back. I used to do that. So basically it's a commitment that you will regularly heal someone as a service. You're taking on that either at the center or at your home or at any other place where you receive a request for healing. Is this clear? Questions? You have a question? Yes. You need a mic, no? 1 second. No? The photo, is it? No. It's not so big. Good question. It's like the small frame, not so big. I don't know if there are other. Do you see the morning satsang photograph? I think it will be little smaller than that. In morning satsang today we had. It's not so big. It's the same photo though, smaller size. And you will not get with the frame. So don't bother how I'll carry. We'll just roll it and give it to you. So you can just put it in your hand baggage or even in your normal cabin baggage. It will go. You can carry it. Other questions? Any other questions? Is this oath clear? So this oath also should be taken only by people who are healing others. Self-healers, obviously, because you're not healing others, you may not be required to go to any center for, there's no question of healing others. Yes, ma?
See to it that we do something about it. We make it happen. We do something about it, and
correct. You should be available as a volunteer to be able to heal people when there is a request from your center.
Okay. If we are unable to set up anything on our own.
Correct. Either you do that or you do this. In some form, be of service is what it's saying. See, that's why you're taking the initiation, no? And when we are saying healing others, it doesn't mean you will go and it's about healing strangers only. Healing encompasses everyone. It could be your neighbors, it could be your own family members, everyone, anything that comes in your breathing space. Huh? So even if I don't open a healing center at home, I can still do healing every day. To my own family members, to my own self I can do. You know, to plants and things in my house I can do. Correct. So obviously no, if you are a healer, your family members know that. The rule doesn't say you will not tell them you're a healer. You'll go ahead and you can actually tell everywhere possible you're a healer. That was the first thing, that probably will be the first thing you should do. Go send email to your friends. Now I'm an initiated healer. Anything related to, you know, if you have any issue at all, please come to me. And it's anyways free, no? So there's nothing they will lose. If they are connected to you as a friend or in any other form, they'll come to you. You understand? You won't force healing on them, but you can share you're a healer now and ask them to come whenever they need it. And if somebody comes, you will heal. Yes, ma?
What do you mean by green chilies?
What would be?
Green chilies.
Green chilies? What you're asking? What about green chilies?
Yeah, because they're different in England, so I'm just asking. There's a few different kinds.
Oh, she's asking what do you mean by green chili? Do you know red chili?
The small ones.
No.
Big ones.
Do you know red chilies are small and big both, right? The long one.
Thin.
Actually, it works if you do a Google search. You can actually see the image.
What's the difference between a green chili and a red chili?
A dried up form of the green chili is the red chili. When it becomes dry, it's the red chili. In the what form? It's raw may be different, but one way of explaining is that they both the chili breed basically, but one is more raw and it's like the seed and the fruit kind of a difference.
Okay.
So
and why green chilies? What's the problem with them?
There's no problem with them. They act as steroids. As I said, green chili,
okay.
Onion, garlic act as steroids. Green chili is very good for, I think, cancer or something. There's some particular condition, I think cancer. It works very powerfully in, attacking cancer cells in the body. Okay. So it's like a medicine. It's like an aspirin or an acin for headache, how you take and headache goes. Green chili is a steroid.
And the red chili is the development of the green chili? Kind of, yes. So why is there not a problem with red chilies?
Because the property of that matter changes when it becomes the red chili.
Okay.
It doesn't, there is a big difference between what a green chili does to your body to what a red chili does.
Okay, thank
you. Red chili is still fine, by the way, to use. Red chili powder is also okay to use. Of course, we avoid it here, but at home you all can use that. If not, substitute could be pepper. You can use black pepper for spice, I'm saying, if you need to have something spicy. But anyway, that's not mandatory. It's good and highly recommended to avoid green chili also. Other questions? Okay. So shall we take oath 2? So oath 2, all people who are healing themselves, please don't take this oath. People who are taking on healing others, please do take this oath and speak it out loudly after me. I hereby swear that I will serve regularly and voluntarily at the Nitya Spiritual Healing Centers or start a healing center at home. Please again say it loudly. I hereby swear that I will serve regularly and voluntarily at the Nitya Spiritual Healing Centers or start a healing center at home. Okay, so this basically is to ensure that you regularly use what is being given to you for healing others. Yes, Thomas, question? Just a moment, the mic is coming. Yeah.
At home, nearby my apartment, there's a temple, can I go there and ask if they want
Absolutely.
that I work as a healer there?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a temple and you want to go there and ask if they need someone to sit there for healing, right?
Yes.
You can ask them like that, or you can offer them that you can do, spend an hour over a weekend, 2 hours, whichever works
Yes.
for you, right? You can tell them. We'll start a healing corner in the temple,
Yeah.
where whether people come or not, you should be available.
Okay.
You know, by and by, when the practice picks up, when people know regularly, you will see people also will start coming.
Okay.
You can have it maybe every Sunday 2 hours, or every Saturday 2 hours, or I don't know, if every day works, every day an hour.
Yeah.
Whichever works for you and for the center, you can work that out.
Okay.
And that'll be a very beautiful thing. Other questions? Other questions? Srinivas, you have a question? Oh, okay. All right. Then, the next third oath, please turn to the next page. Is it the next page? Next page, no? What happened? Oh. It's hot, is it? Okay. Is everybody in the next page? All of us can take the next oath. People who are self-healers and healing others, everybody will take this oath. So please read loud after me. I hereby swear that I will follow all the rules existing at present and updated or amended in future by Master and his institution. It's clear, no? This is just basically you telling that if there's any updates, I will just follow and apply those updates to healing. So once again, shall we read? Please read aloud after me. Everyone will read this. I hereby swear that I will follow all the rules existing at present and updated or amended in future by Master and his institution. Clear? Okay, so this is about the oaths. Yeah, if there is there are actually hardly updates. It's usually standard. If there is anything, you will get it. We will announce online, we will put it up, send email, we'll do something like that. Okay, any other questions on this, on whatever we spoke so far? Any questions? Then what are the rules for? There are no rules for self-healers. Yeah, no, the rules is basically, see what is for self-healers like that, if you see there are no rules, but only the requirement is that you need to do the Anandagandha meditation, Shaktidharana meditation every day. Things like that. It's mostly things that keep the Anandagandha chakra awakened inside you. And there can be some additions, you never know. In future self-healers should do this also, kind of a thing. Any other questions? Yes, other than Shaktidharana meditation, is there Anandagandha meditation also is a question? Yes, it is also there, and the best thing is you can do it immediately after Shaktidharana as you are sleeping itself every day. Anandagandha is even more easier meditation, very simple. You can do it lying down like that and you can sleep off. So we'll learn about that also. Before the initiation, in fact Anandagandha is after the initiation. After you receive your initiation, you will come and do Anandagandha meditation. Your Anandagandha chakra has to be activated, that space has to be activated for you to be able to do that meditation. Is that clear? And by the way, one thing I wanted to mention, in the break some of you have come and asked me for healing. You said healing, na? I was in some other world, I forgot to mention to you. And a couple of others also have asked, can you heal me? I'm having cough, I'm having fever. Inside the Inner Awakening program, we do not heal the participants, because the process is happening actively on you and Swamiji is doing it. You understand? It's like a surgery that's happening. Now the master surgeon is doing the surgery. In the meanwhile, you're running to the compounder and asking him for a painkiller. So that may go contrary to the surgery itself, because the master surgeon knows what he's doing. He knows that where it is paining for you. He knows what are the symptoms, how the toxins are coming out of you. Right? So the compounder coming and doing anything in between, may not work actively for the surgery itself. It's like that. So that's the reason none of us, you will see, will be healing anyone inside the hall. So even after you receive healer's initiation on Monday, don't heal one another. Don't heal any IA participants, because IA participants are exclusive sole property of Paramahamsa Nityananda during the program. He owns you in all ways. He knows what he's doing. Let us not interrupt that process. That is the reason I refused healing to a couple of people. And even if I said I will, I wanted to let you know I will not be able to do that because of this purpose, because of this reason. Do you understand? It's a very intense process. Inner awakening itself is very intense, not easy, as you can see. Don't think, oh, because of the rain I'm getting, because of this, it's not, none of that. It's actually such a process. So many years and years and years of karma is being removed. Lot is happening with each one of you. So the manifestation will be there in some physical form. Could be cough, cold, diarrhea, whatever you're going through. Happens with every single batch. It is highly, highly common and natural for people to become sick during inner awakening. So don't bother. It's very natural and it will take its own course and it will go also. But inside the hall, don't heal each other. Don't do that, because that may not work with the process that Swamiji is doing for each one. Okay? All right. The next point. Okay. The next point is chapter 15, page number 148. In this book it's 148, in the other book it should be 150 something. Spiritual name. The name of the chapter is Spiritual Name. Which page number is it in the other book? 157? Okay. So check 148, Spiritual Name, chapter 15 should be there, or if it's not there, turn to 157. Chapter 15, Spiritual Name. Is everybody on that page? Yes? No? Tell something. Everybody is there. Shall we read it? Spiritual name. What is in a name? When somebody calls out John or Jill, immediately, unconsciously, the attention of John or Jill is drawn and the person looks to see who is calling him or her. This is how deeply our name has been embedded in our unconscious. Your name can be a powerful technique for realizing yourself. Another important thing is that whenever someone calls out your name, you suddenly become conscious and aware of yourself. You must have experienced a situation such as sitting in a big classroom and suddenly teacher calls out your name for some reason. Whether you were dozing off or listening to the teacher, you will break from that thought pattern and you will be jolted to the present place and time. When somebody calls out your name. Significance of the spiritual name. The new name which I give, this is Swamiji telling you, the new name which he gives, this spiritual name is to constantly remind you to mother the psychological revolution that has happened in you. What does he mean by mothering? He means to nurture, to actually progress the psychological revolution that's happening inside you. You constantly mother or nurture the new life, the new understanding which has happened in you. Constantly you remember it. That is why I give you. That is why Swamiji gives you the new name. A name has a tremendous influence over our state of mind. The spiritual name indicates the spiritual path of the individual according to his or her innate nature, which will lead to the ultimate flowering of the individual and actualization of his or her potential. When we call out the person's name, his or her spiritual path is constantly repeated and it enters into the very core of his or her being. When a psychological revolution happens inside you, again and again, if you remember the old name, you go back to the old identity. If you have the right spiritual name given by an enlightened being, that name will take you to the conscious depths. It will be a bridge for you to enter into enlightenment. It will direct you in your path towards enlightenment. It will tell you how your life, how your way of life should be, how you can achieve enlightenment, and how you should take care of your life. There are thousands of ways to live. To give you guidance, masters choose the name. Your name is like a mantra or a chant. Let me give the definition of samskara and mantra. Any word which is inscribed in your inner space, which binds you, which suffocates you, which brings you down in your consciousness is samskara or an engram. Any word which is inscribed in your inner space which liberates you, which takes you to a higher consciousness, which takes you to the more joyful, blissful state is a mantra. Mantra and samskara both are almost the same, but samskara is one which binds you, mantra is one which liberates you. Mantra is like an antidote for samskara. If you are named by an unconscious person, your name is a bondage. And all of us almost are named by our parents or people who have taken care of us or who brought us up, most of them being not enlightened themselves, right? So mostly name is a bondage for us. If you are named by an enlightened being, your name is a method to liberate you. Your very name can be used as a technique for enlightenment. You see, if at all your name can be used towards your spiritual growth, that is the best thing, because the whole day from morning till night, either you will be using it for yourself or somebody else will be using that name for you. Then understand, every moment becomes a spiritual practice. If the right word from the right master is given to you as a technique, as a name, every time it is repeated, you are entering into higher consciousness. Every time you understand and remember the meaning of it, you are in a different plane. People come and tell me, the spiritual name you gave me is so beautiful. Whenever I remember that name, I am fulfilled. Whenever I meditate on its meaning, I am just overflowing. The name can take you to the deepest level. One more thing, any other word is only an addition to you, but your name is the center of you. Your name is the center, everything else is an addition. That is why in the Vedic tradition we use only God's names. We have for every God 1008 names, which is known as the Sahasranama. Sahasranama is used for two different purposes. One is to address the gods and deities, the other is to pick up names for your kids. Now literally, I know in most of the communities in India, every name is after a god only. Every single name. People who are Indians, you take their names, all names are names of some god or goddess. All names, almost all names come under that category. So our elders would try to find the appropriate name from these names, these 1008 names which each god or goddess would have. They would see the family deity, the nakshatra, which is the star of the child, and refer to the Sahasranama or this 1008, book, the dictionary of names, to find out the right name. The name is so powerful that it can take you beyond the mind. So ignore the last paragraph which says, which to be a Nitya spiritual healer, you are required to change your name. I mean, taking a spiritual name is not mandatory to be a healer. However, you have an opportunity to apply for a spiritual name during inner awakening. You understand, there are two things. One is, it's not mandatory to have a spiritual name in order to be a healer. You can be a healer without a spiritual name also. But if you would like to apply for a spiritual name, there are a couple of rules that you need to follow. Two things are there. One is, when you apply for you can apply a spiritual name in two ways. One is you can do you can apply online, which is outside of the program Inner Awakening. It's whether you have done IA or not. Generally, anyone can apply online. It's $500. You'll pay the money, you will apply, you will get the name and you can use it. And in Inner Awakening, it is free. It's complementary with the program. However, if you are applying in Inner Awakening, it is mandatory that you change the name legally within 3 months after the program. Do you understand? In case you want to apply for a name, spiritual name, in IA, when you're given a spiritual name by Swamiji, it is mandatory to legally change the name, including your passport, your bank documents, everywhere. Legally, you have to change the name. It is mandatory, and within 90 days, 3 months of completion of your Inner Awakening program. Is this clear? Yes, any questions?
But if it is not possible to change legally, because
if it's not possible to change, you cannot apply in Inner Awakening.
You can.
One thing to get is in both ways, whether I'm applying online, paying and taking the name, or in Inner Awakening, Swamiji only gives. He will meditate on you, he will meditate on your energy, the central, the energy flow inside you, and he'll give you the name. But in IA, if you're applying, it is mandatory to change the name.
Okay.
Otherwise, you don't need to change the name legally. Of course, you can use it. You will have to, that's the purpose of taking the name itself. Clear? Any other questions? So if you're interested, we will pass out the spiritual name request form. and you can take the form, fill in and give it to us, and we'll get back to you with the names. By the end of the program, you will be given, the name will be given to you by Swamiji.
Do we get an explanation of what the name means?
Yes, you will get an explanation of what the name means. Actually, it can be given in different forms. See, all names will have either Nitya or Ananda. Centrally, for each one of us, either we will be intellect based, right? Intellect based is like intellectual, logical, reasoning. You're very powerful in your math, in being logical and reasoning and all that stuff. So mostly you're most likely to be left brain than right brain. Left brain is in charge of what? It has all the faculties of logic, mathematics, engineering, all that is left brain related. So if you're more a left brain person, your energy is more in the flow of logic and intellect and all that, you will have the prefix Nitya in your name. Prefix or suffix will be Nitya. Means Nitya Sudhama, Nitya Bharani, Nitya Mohini, like that. Okay? There is a name which itself has a meaning, and you will also have the path which is Nitya. Or there is another category of people who are emotional by nature, who are more emotional, who tend to be more soft emotion wise, more arts flowing through them. That's right brain. And those people are given the prefix or suffix Ananda. Ananda Bhakti Mai, Ananda Arani, Ananda Prema Manohari, like that. Do we get that? Either you will get a Nitya in your name or you will get a Ananda in your name. Now there are few people who are being based, meaning they have a right mixture of being an intellect and being emotional at the same time. Meaning there is a balance or a perfect alignment happening between your left and right brains. Neither of the brains are dominating. All those people have Nityananda in their name, the entire name. And usually Nityananda, both Nitya and Ananda, is given only to ashramites. Swamiji gives it only to ashramites. People who live around him, you have no other option. You have to have both balanced. The more you live around him, the more you become a being-based person. Meaning you will have the right mix of intellect and emotion inside you. So if you see all our names, we'll have both. So she is Nitya Bhairavikananda, she is Nitya Atmananda, I am Nitya Manishananda. So we have Nitya and Ananda both in us, all of us. So typically for ashramites, he gives the name which has both Nitya and Ananda. Clear? Yes, question?
Can you tell us a bit more about the legal procedure in Europe, for instance?
You will have to contact a lawyer.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, yeah. You'll have to contact a local attorney.
In each country it must be...
Absolutely. In each country, depending on the country laws, you'll have to contact a local attorney to find out the rules and regulations and apply it accordingly. In fact, there are some countries like France where they cannot change the name.
I think in Belgium it's not possible neither.
Yes, illegally they just can't change the name, and I was so shocked to hear this.
No.
They can't change the name legally unless they have a solid reason why they want to change the name. And I believe if you have an abusive name, I don't know how people can have abusive, like I've not heard of names being abusive, but if you have some F&B name, literally like that kind of a name, then the court will give you permission to change your name. Otherwise you don't have the liberty of changing your name. So many times in the sessions, France participants come back and ask us always, it's not our fault. The country law doesn't allow us to change the name. No. But still we say, we are sorry, you will have to buy the name online in that case. Because in Inner Awakening, we cannot make exceptions. If you're applying for a name, you will have to change it legally. So you will have to contact your local attorney and advocate for this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So Swamiji will be meditating on all the people who apply for the spiritual name. He will meditate on the name and he will then give you give you your spiritual name. And once you are given the spiritual name, two things you will have to do is, one, you have to change the name. Obviously, you will have to circulate the new name amongst family and friends, because the more number of people call you with that name, the more that it's a path to enlightenment itself. The more you become that. Right? And second, of course, it's mandatory to change it legally as well. Yes, question?
I think I have something misunderstood. In Austria, I think it's also forbidden to change the name.
Can you talk loudly?
In Austria, it's also forbidden to change the name. You can only change one...
You're saying in Germany also there are rules around name?
In Austria.
Austria?
Yeah.
Where is Austria?
Europe.
Europe,
Yeah.
okay.
And when also I can't get the spiritual name here in IA, but I can buy it over.
Yes, you can buy it online. Yes.
And then I don't have to change it legally.
Correct.
Oh, so.
Correct. You can use it without changing it legally. Other question, ma?
For those people that can't change it legally, could they use their spiritual name and then if it's a letter or something in brackets have their original name under it, so they're still using it, but it's not if they can't do it legally?
And can they apply their name in IA is what you're asking me?
Yeah, so if they applied for the name, all the family and friends call them by the spiritual name. But when it comes to legal things, they could have their spiritual name and then they have their original legal name underneath.
No, the legal name, the spiritual name has to replace the legal name. That's what we mean. You'll have to legally change the name to this name.
No, I appreciate that, but if they can't do it in their country...
If you can't do and you instead can do alias, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
If that's a legal procedure, yes, you can do that way. That's still a legal procedure, isn't it, ma? That's still a legal requirement in that place? Yes, you can do that. That's what you're saying, na? Yeah, for whichever country. You can do that, yes.
Ma, while talking about the significance of spiritual name, you said the more and more people call you by that name, the more it reminds you of maybe what path and all. So, if you are buying the name online, you said it is not necessary to change your name.
Correct.
The whole purpose of having a spiritual name is lost then.
It's not necessary to change it legally.
Okay.
It's not necessary to change it legally. You will still obviously have people call you by the new name.
Okay.
There's a difference between changing a name and changing it legally. It's a complete different game.
Why is it compulsory for the IA part, like if you want to take it and you while participating in IA, why is it compulsory that we change it
Because
legally?
we need some commitment from your end. Either $500 is a commitment on its own. Somebody pays $500, we know they are serious about using that name and spiritually evolving with it. We are only looking at the intensity that it should bring into your life. There have been cases where Swamiji used to give free all the time and people will just take the name, throw it into the dustbin. They won't even remember what is their name after the 10th day. And that is gross abuse of the master. He is doing it with a very intense, it's a spiritual thing he is giving you. It's a practice. So I cannot, it's like a vow, I cannot go back on it. So there are only one way of ensuring people do and stick to that, which is what? Asking them to pay for it. When I pay for it, I am probably more serious, more sincere about using it. Or if I am paying a cost called, I am legally changing it. You understand? If I am not paying $500, instead if I am legally changing it, will I legally change it everywhere in the passport here, there, bank statements and not use it? Impossible. I will have to use it then. Basically, this is to make people use the name for this so much.
Okay.
Why? Because in the initial years, people will not use the name. They will just take it for granted. Beautiful names he has given and he will give with so much of, he will meditate on you, he will visualize your whole future, your entire path is unfolded through that. And imagine people will just throw it into the dustbin. In fact, even Healer's Initiation was not a paid program and all. See, Swamiji wants healing itself to be free. Why will he charge for Healer's Initiation? Tell me. He always used to give it like over a chat, he would tell, okay, you can now become a healer. With so much of joy, he started giving people. But what would people do? They will just push it under the carpet on the 10th day, the 4th day, 5th day, they go back home. They just don't use it at all, even to heal themselves, forget healing others. When Swamiji started noticing this, that people are taking it for granted, they are not doing the practice, then he said, okay, maybe people don't understand the significance of Healer's Initiation. It's a huge thing. So he said, let's give an introduction. People will start understanding. So they began with a 3-hour introduction on Healer's Initiation. Then still people continued. After 1 month, they will stop healing. So from 3 hours, he made it, let's make it a short paid program, 1 day. They made it a 1-day program. People did it for 6 months. And again the same thing. They'll go back not healing, forgetting their healers, things like that. So then it came to 2 days now. And we have a cost now. So that when people pay and come and sit for 2 days, They will have the seriousness, they will have the commitment to continue being healers. See, all he can do is give you the initiation and open up that space in you. He can't, beyond that, he cannot, force your will, force your individual will to go and practice that. No, that responsibility is mine and yours. Yes or no? So this program itself came out of people not taking it seriously. Spiritual name also, people did the same thing. It's like another fancy. We know of people who would, the name certificate is given. They will frame that certificate and keep it in their office room, in their living room, bedroom, next to other certificates. People have this habit of keeping certificates. Institute of so-and-so awarded this award, got this award, masters in computer science. Like that, spiritual name is one certificate hanging on the wall. It's like one more certificate in my book of certificates. Nobody uses the name. So what to do? How else will you make human beings practice? So even to make people practice spirituality, you have to use the bait called money. When people pay, their participation is completely different when people do not pay. Do you think he needs to charge 3 lakhs to do something called inner awakening? No. He is doing the same thing in so many ways free of cost. There are programs which we offer for free. Can you imagine how many people come for those programs? He offered Kalpataru program fee for so many days. He offered 2-day programs, 1-day programs free. Do you know how many people came? 1 person. 2 people. Full day he will sit and talk to 1 person. I have seen him doing that. He will come sit in darshan, there will be 1 person sitting in the hall. Free. This is free, by the way. And in a place like, in a program like Inner Awakening, 3 lakhs, we have people coming. Because Swamiji knows, if you are committed, if you are sincere, if you are an intense seeker, nothing is a barrier for you. Number 1, you have the ability to produce whatever you want, you will be in the program. Number 2, the transformation is permanent and lasting, not because of what he is giving. He is still giving the same thing, trust me. Even when he is sitting on the road and talking to there also he is doing the same thing. But the person who is receiving, their quality is different when they pay money and come and when they come for a free class. Mostly people will come for free class just to sit under the fan. No, really. I have seen it myself. I have coordinated programs like Inner Awakening where people pay and come, and programs where people don't pay and come. They come only for 3 times food. Really. The meals are free, 3 meals. Otherwise also we do Annadanam. We are giving free meal. But this is, little extra. You can sit under a fan, you can sleep happily. One night you can stay free of cost in the ashram. All these things they think and they come. And that is abusing the master's time, no? And the only way to get intense people, way to literally drive down transformation is by charging for the programs. And that way when people come, their participation is very intense. Do you understand, ma? So that's the difference. Okay, other questions? Any other questions? Yes.
Is there can you teach unclutching to other people?
Who?
Can you teach unclutching to
Can
other
you teach unclutching to other people?
Yeah, the same way you can do healer's initiation?
No, you can't. Healer's initiation has to be done, be done only by the master.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, can you teach unclutching to other people?
Oh, your question itself is, can you teach unclutching to other people?
Yeah.
You cannot give an initiation. You can share techniques and tools. There are 2 different things. Sharing about a technique is like teaching, is like sharing. Initiation is only what Swamiji can give. So unclutching becomes permanent in your biomemory only when you get initiated into unclutching. All of you are initiated. Remember, you did it on the NSP. NSP, did you guys get unclutching initiation? Yes. Where did you get it? In the temple, no? Remember that session? When Swamiji does that, that is an initiation. That you and me can't do. We can share about unclutching. It's just like another book. So many books speak about that. It's like that. Right? But it works powerfully when they physically receive it from the master. Yes.
When I want to heal other people, do I need the spiritual name?
Who? What?
When I want to heal other people, do I need the spiritual name?
No, you don't.
I can do it with my
Yes.
old name.
Whether you have a spiritual name or not, you can heal other people. The book says something else, ignore that. This is a previous version. Once upon a time we had that rule, now we don't have that rule. It's not mandatory to have a spiritual name in order to be a healer. No. Any other questions? So basically, name is like, the hanger on which your ego is there. Meaning, one thing that you associate very deeply with is your name. You're closely connected to your name. That's why your response mechanism to your name is the fastest, because you identify with yourself with your name right from a very young age. Isn't it? One of the first things you learn about you is what? Your name. Even before you go to school, yes or no? Even before you're taught the first syllables, A, B, C, D, even before that, what comes up? Tell me. Your name, no. Right from your childhood. For many countries, as soon as the child is born, the name is given. At least in India, I know 3 months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes we wait. We have a special ceremony for name. After 21 days of the child being born, there's one ceremony. Or for some people, it is 3 months. For some people, it is 1 year, 6 months, like that. But I know in many, many countries, as soon as you're born, you're given a name, over. So from that time, you first associate yourself with that name only. That's why name is very powerful. It leaves a very powerful imprint on your nervous system. And unfortunately, fortunately, we are all in the hands of people who are not enlightened. Our parents, the society is not enlightened. They just give a name according to what they think is right. But when a master gives a name, he meditates on the energy that you are. There are different paths in which your energy matures. One is the path of bhakti or devotion. The path of bhakti or devotion, if you are in that path, the name will be on those lines. Bhaktimayi, Bhaktika, Bhakta, Bhaktimaya, all related to devotion. Means your path is that. Your path itself is the path of devotion. If on the other hand, your path is knowledge, your path is like wisdom, then you are given names which are Jnana, Jnanatma, Jnanananda, Jnaneshwaramaya, Jnanamaya. Jnana means on the path of knowledge. That's the path for your being to mature and evolve. Do you understand what I'm saying? On the other hand, if it is love, it becomes Premamaya, Premananda, Prematmananda, Priyamayananda, all these names. Do you get this? So basically, depending on the central alignment of your energy, the name itself, Swamiji meditates and gives you according to that. And yes, in IA, when you apply and he gives a name, he gives you the explanation of what the name means. That also very beautifully on a certificate we give it to you with the name and its explanation. Clear? Is this clear? Yes. Any other questions on this? Yes.
Can we have the same name than another person?
Can you have the same name as another person has?
Yes, spiritual name.
Usually it doesn't happen that way. Unless very rarely name can repeat. Usually it doesn't. Other questions? How many of us have children in the doing engineers? Raise your hand. You have children. You can also, if you want to, if you give a consent, you can apply name for your child as well inside IA. But the same rule will apply. Legally, you have to change it for the child. It's very easy to change it for the child, by the way. There's only one certificate for most of your children, if I know it right, which is the birth certificate. So in India, at least for the 10th class certificate, it's that from there starts a bigger game of lot of certificates. For children, it's, I feel, easier to change. So in case you're interested, you can discuss with your spouse. You can apply for the child during inner awakening and get a name from Swamiji for the child as well. Okay, but you will have to apply because you are the parent and guardian. You will have to do that on the child's behalf. And of course, don't forget, do ask the child. Does the child want a different name? Okay. Of course not. Obviously, if he is already named by Swamiji, that means he has been blessed to be born in Swamiji's breathing space. Then that itself is spiritual name, no? Any name Swamiji gives is a spiritual name. I know there are lucky children like that, so that one, your son is that, is it? What's his name? Anandan. Lucky fellow. Nicely, he's with the spiritual name only, he's growing, see. So I know there are fortunate people whose child also was born because of Swamiji. In the sense, Swamiji gives apples to couples. Do you know that? How many of us don't know this, that he gives apples? So if there is a pregnant couple, if there's a couple which wants children and doesn't have children, all they need to do is ask Swamiji. In any darshan, you can ask him for children. He will just give 2 apples, 2 fruits to both the husband and the wife, and they conceive, they have children. We've had people coming from infertility clinics, people whose chances of having children has been 0 according to the most expert doctors, and they have conceived. So the child itself is because of Swamiji's grace. So right from that stage, I have seen children, I call them as apple babies. I have apple babies in Bangalore, cutie pies. Now she's already how much? Swaroop's daughter? 3.5 years something. She's like grown also, 3 years, 3.5 years. So the apple baby is born because of Swamiji, named, of course, Swamiji, they'll bring to Swamiji only the moment the child is born. And it's amazing. So.
You said Swamiji's name is Purna Avatar. What does Purna mean?
His name is not Purna Avatar. I'm referring to him as Purna Avatar.
What is
Purna is full, the state of being whole, complete, perfect and full means
that's what I was asking.
He's a culmination of both the masculine and feminine energies. Purna is, for an avatar, it's indicative of that. Means both masculinity and femininity are in balance inside him. So if you notice, many a times he looks like a woman. How many of you can notice that? When he leaves his hair loose, puts it on one side, puts a big bindi, sometimes he puts flowers. He looks exactly like a woman. And many a times he looks very manly. How many of you notice that? He just, like out and out, he comes out like a strong, tall, broad, especially in Kala Bhairava Darshan, he looks like 1,000 men standing there, like really huge. But if you see him in Devi Darshan, he looks so feminine. How many of you have had Devi Bhava Darshan of Swamiji? Raise your hand. How many of you, will agree with me that he looks very feminine? I mean, physically his frame changes because we are so close to the stage. When we see him, we know that. I remember in one IA, with a gap of 24 hours, he gave both the darshans. Today night he gave Devi Bhava Darshan, and tomorrow, the previous day he gave Kala Bhairava Darshan, next day he gave Devi Bhava Darshan. His biceps, right, this part, physically went up by 3 inches in Kala Bhairava Darshan, physically. I am not telling just like that. We have a tape, we keep measuring it, like we measure it after the darshan, Physically, this became this much. Within 24 hours, it reduced by 5 inches. Physically, this part. Then when he took the Devi Bhava Darshan, it became slim. And the blouse can just get in. Literally, it becomes a woman body. Now, that's obviously, that's the mystical part, but that's what Purna Avatar is. Like a depiction, a representation of both the divine cosmic feminine and divine cosmic masculine energies. That's a Purna Avatar. It usually, we can't guarantee, I told you, nothing can be guaranteed. Everything is constantly subject to change. There's a period for that. Usually he doesn't give. He usually only gives it on 31st evening, by the way. Every year, 31st midnight is Devi Bhava Darshan time. Wherever you are on the planet, Indian Standard Time, tune in to 31st midnight. I think last time we opened it to NTV also. I don't remember. Mayatita Maharaj? Did we open Devi to, not to NTV so far? Oh, we opened it to two-way centers, of course. We, last time, and I think even before last time, we opened it to two-way, remember? Two years back was the first time. So if you are close to any two-way center, do not miss going there on 31st night. That will be the most exciting thing you will be doing, because you will directly be able to see Swamiji in Devi Bhava Darshan. 31st midnight, very selected two-way centers. All our Nityananda Vedic temples get an opportunity to watch Devi Bhava Darshan. And because you are an inner awakening graduate, you will have direct entry for that darshan. Not everyone can get that darshan, by the way. Unless you have done, inner awakening of course has. Otherwise you should have done the NSP program and all those things are there. Right? So, that's what a Purna Avatar means. It's basically the energy alignment that happens inside, in one human body. Other questions? Okay, so how many of us will be interested in applying for a spiritual name? You're clear, you want the name, and you're clear you will be legally changing it. Please raise your hand now. We'll quickly pass over the form. It's obviously absolutely optional. If you're interested, you would like to pursue that path, and you're clear you can change it legally, take it. So that's October 27th. 90 days from that date, you will have to change it legally. I'll give you a guidelines sheet along with the change, the name certificate, which will clearly tell you what to do. Go to a lawyer, get it changed, and you'll have to scan that copy and send it to us. It has all the details. We'll circulate that to you later.
I remember 2 or 3 weeks ago on
Loudly into the mic.
Sorry. I remember 2 or 3 weeks ago on satsang, Swamiji said he will be teaching. I'm just asking. I'm just asking you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking for.
That's okay. Ask.
He said he will be teaching brahmachari
Mm-hmm.
kriya
Mm-hmm.
to erase the hormones out of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to? And he says if you're not, if you're married or something, to send an email to end that sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent the email, and they said, we'll let you know, but they never sent me an email after that.
Yeah, because we've not gotten any instructions from Swamiji after that.
Oh, so he hasn't done it?
No. He'll do it in the morning satsang only. When did he do? He's not done it. Whenever
I thought he
we are
did- I
ready
thought
to
he did it
receive,
already.
he will give it.
Okay,
In that
so-
time, we will send the communication to you.
So just stay tuned to the satsang further.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
He's proposing to do it in the morning satsang itself.
Thank you.
Yeah. Rudraksh itself is a very powerful holder of energy. As matter, it's very powerful in retaining energy within itself and radiating it back. Rudraksh is literally known as the Aksha of Rudra. Rudra is Shiva. The divine masculine energy of the cosmos is Rudra, and the tears, the tears which come out of Shiva's eyes is Aksh means tears. Rudraksha literally means the tears rolling out of Rudra's eyes. So it's a very powerful seed. It's a very powerful fruit and seed which holds energy a lot, which has the capacity to hold maximum energy. The Rudraksha personally, ones which are blessed by Swamiji, that almost all of us have, is like a hotline connection to Swamiji. Holding this mala, it's like instantly I can call, it's like literally speaking to Swamiji, a 911 to Swamiji, it's like that. And there have been like how many hundreds of experiences around this mala, I cannot tell you, like so many miracles around just the mala being there. And the kapu, you see this bracelet that we have has Nityanandam on it. In Healer's initiation, all of you will be getting a copper bracelet with Om Reem Nityanandaya Namaha inscribed. That's the Guru Mantra. This is basically to remind you of the state that you are in. Nitya means eternal, Ananda is bliss. So each time I look at the bracelet, I get to remember that I am a eternally blissful being. So it's more and more that becomes a memory for me. When I look at it again and again, that becomes a part of my bio memory. But the mala itself has caused so many miracles in people's life. My own life, I've had so many incidents with the mala. I still remember when I took the program first, I happened to see Swamiji on television. As I told you, I was working with Google, and spirituality was nowhere there in the realm of my life. Completely out and out corporate animal, always working for my incentives. What would happen this quarter, my quarterly targets to be met, and to do more and more well. And Google is such a fantastic company, so you're so busy with so many things. Almost every second evening there's a party somewhere. They take you to clubs, pubs, resorts, you name it, they give you. Like literally. They book theaters, and every second weekend you get to see a movie, either a Harry Potter or a this or a that. Whenever there's a new show, new release, the whole theater is booked by Google. You'll have your whole office gets to sit in the theater the full day. All 3 shows are booked. With family and friends you can go. Each person is given, lots of tickets you get free. So it's like so much of fun actually. So much you will be there having the fun of life. It's actually a very rare thing that somebody can even by mistake get into something called spirituality. So for me it was not at all there in my zone. In my radar it was never there. But my mother, however, like many typical Indian housewives, mostly people who are in the house, they have this habit of continuously changing channels. Most houses, you see, they'll keep on changing the channel, keep on changing the channel. My mother is one such soul. 24 hours she'll change channel, and what channel she'll be looking? She'll be looking at all, there's entire belt of channels which is spirituality based. Bhakti, Samskar, Samskriti, it's like some 20 channels of all languages, all masters will be watching those, you know, all she'll be doing is she'll be sitting and changing one by one. One it will be Rama Rama Jaya. What is life? Life is this, life is that. And in another channel it will be saying, Jesus will save you, the Lord has come down onto the earth. Another will say, Ram ji ka kathan kehna ke matlab ye hai, Ram ji ka saransh ye hai. Another channel she'll be saying, where he'll be saying, Bhakti ante enti, Bhakti ante Paramatmudu ekavadu. If you go into the house, it's like one, literally if you are not tuned to that, it will be like a mad thing. She will not listen to one master continuous. She'll keep on changing. And I will fight with her. Why do you do this? Are you getting anything? I'll ask her. It's such a habit. Even if she's sleeping, her hand will be on the remote continuously. And it'll keep changing. All of it is spirituality. But you will get nothing into your head. Like that. So she does that. So it was one such day. It was I happened to keep a leave. I applied a leave for something. And in the afternoon, I went to my mom's house to talk to her for something. And as usual, she was changing channels, and one old man was talking in one channel. There is Sundar Chaitanya Swami. He was singing Krishna Bhaje in one channel. He was singing. Then she changed it to Asta. In Asta, some Asaram Babu, someone was talking. And there's one speaker in Hindi who keeps talking, Ram ka matlab kya hai? Jano, Ram ko jano. Like that. One person is doing that. Then in the next channel, there's one Christ priest who's saying, save the world, Jesus comes down to you, and all that. And like, ayyo, just to escape from that, I'll not stay much in my mother's house. No, few minutes, I'll finish my job and run away. So I was going to the kitchen. My back was faced to the TV, and suddenly I hear Swamiji's words. In the television, it's coming, and he's speaking about the different states of mind. How human beings are, there's the only singular bonding in human being's life. The only point that exists in a human being's life is the mind. How the mind binds you, how the mind liberates you, how the mind is your foe, how the mind is your friend. Swamiji's voice. Now I'm arrested with that voice. As I'm getting into the kitchen, I just stop there as if something has just surrounded me. And I just turn around. I have one glimpse, one glance of him. I don't even get to see the channel name, and the power goes off. Now India, the power keeps going off. I needn't tell you that. You see how many times in the hall we sit in dark, it keeps going. It just went toop. And I'm like, I want to know more, but the power is not there. And now I can't even ask which channel, because my mom, the great, keeps on changing channels. She doesn't know what comes in what channel. Such a disadvantage. I really cursed her that day. How come you won't see one channel? Now tell me, which channel did he come? She's like, I don't know which channel he came. I don't know who he is. I'm like, ayyo. And then power didn't come for 1 hour. I sat. And obviously after the power came, it doesn't go back to the same channel. Her TV, you have to switch it on manually. It went back to some Cartoon Network, and so eventually we couldn't figure out. I couldn't figure out that day which channel that is. I'm working for Google, but I need to know the person's name to get the person's history. With the face, I can't do a Google search. And his face is just, it's just there in my mind, so vivid. I don't know who he is. I have not seen him ever, anywhere. Usually even the small thing, little bit I know about gurus, he is not there in that list. So I was so desperate to know the name. And I have a friend in Hyderabad, my neighbor who's at home. She doesn't work. So I told her, we both have the same taste, and we both were, more or less in the same thing. I told Shubh, you'll have to search and tell me which person this is. So next day, at least only thing I know was the time. That time in the afternoon that his program comes. That much only I know. So in that time, the next day she sat and she went through all the channels, and she said, and I described the person. The person has long hair, and I said, don't know if it's a man or a woman. Long hair, voice is a man voice, but face looks like a woman, and wearing orange robes. This much only I could see of Swamiji at that time, dark. So I told her all this, and she said, what description you are giving? No channel has such a person talking. And I said, good English. The English was good is what I told her, like really. And she said, no, doesn't match. And this was a Wednesday when I saw Swamiji, when I heard it. Thursday she checked, Friday she checked, Saturday she checked. So we were clear it comes probably once in a week, the program. So we were waiting eagerly for next Wednesday to happen. Next Wednesday came, and then she checked all the channels again, and she got him the next Wednesday the same time. And then she said his name is Nityananda. So just to get Swamiji's name, it took 1 week for me to get his name and get hold of who this person is. And then of course, there was no looking back after that. Like morning to evening in Google, typically anything, you can sit morning to midnight, do whatever. You can watch movies, you can roll on the floor and party as long as you finish the work. And people live that life. You won't believe, in so many Google campuses, they go swimming, they go golfing, they do everything but work. It's like as if I've gone to a resort. But people work. They're very responsible, highly integrated people, because getting into the company itself is so difficult. They have like real gems and jewel of people working there. We have both hand in hand. You have freedom and you do your responsibilities also well. So most people actually listen to music and all that while working. For me, the only thing I do is the moment I go, I'll open YouTube, start with a discourse. Whole day I'll be discourse after discourse after discourse. By the evening, I'll finish off maybe some 10 discourses for the day. Like this, I actually finished all the 1,000 hours, something was there in that time. Some 700-800 discourses, all of them I finished before I could physically see Swamiji. Anyway, so like that, I happened to see him on YouTube, and obviously it was such a pull and such a strong attraction. He was not even there in India at that time. He was in the US for the Yogam tour or something. He was touring in the US at that time. This 2009 summer here, 2009 March. So in March, I happened to actually do the ASP program. Only then I came to know that just 2 kilometers from my house, there's actually a center where they regularly do the LBP level 1, the Chakras program, which I go through that building every day. Not once I noticed even a small banner. Always they keep the banner, by the way. See how funny life is. You know, your main life purpose is sitting right next to your eyes and you never notice it. Because the time is not yet come for you. So when the time is right, only then things happen. That's the biggest experience my life has taught me, at least. So from then, you know, that day, so happened somehow we came to know. One weekend this program was happening and a teacher was taking the class. We went, took the 7 chakras, the ASP program, the first level, and I melted. It was like, my God, something completely which was new to me started happening in me. I could experience Swamiji already from my TV interactions with him, but this was like even more deeper into him. And by evening, I had a mala. Swamiji was explaining the other day how the wife comes home. Literally, I went home like that day. On the first day itself, I took the Jivan Mukti book, I took some 10 other books, I took the mala, I took Vibhuti, this, that, I put everything. My husband literally freaked out. He's like, what's wrong with you? What happened to you? He, poor thing, he was really scared. And anyway, so it started like that. Eventually, I made him also do the ASP, and it happened. That's a long story, but coming to the mala point, that was the day I took the mala from this teacher. And the mala has always been, it's been like, you know, holding the mala, even when I'm sleeping, it's like a feeling that I'm holding Swamiji's hand. That kind of a feeling I always had right from the moment I put on the mala. And this was like March, April in Hyderabad, and the place where I come is very hot. Like how the first day of IA was in Tiruvannamalai, like that you can say, or more than that. Like 50 degrees centigrade heat. Peak summers are like really, really hot. So that's another part in South India. It's one of the hottest cities of India. So that day it so happened, it was one of the hottest days of the year, and you know, very hot in the evening. I came back from work, finished the cooking, and the AC was on in the bedroom. The AC runs all the time in summers especially. AC was on, the fan was on, and you know, the mala, as I said, always I'm holding the mala and doing all the work. And at around 9 o'clock or something, I slept that day. I slept very early. I told you, no, I was a sleeper who would sleep 10 hours a day. Otherwise, I'll think I'll die. So if I sleep half an hour little late that day, I'll feel the next day, whole day, as if I've not slept for 10 years. That's kind of a pattern I used to live inside of. It's a shock that I sleep only 3 hours a day today. Anyway, so 9 o'clock I slept, and deep sleep. Nicely I was sleeping, and the fan is running, the AC is on. I think at around 3 in the morning. Around 3 in the morning. Before that, I should tell you, in the previous night, there was a big rat in the house. Big one, like this big. It's a bandicoot. And my daughter saw it. My daughter is one animal, I don't know, she has some, I used to think some samskara, and she literally live with animals. She'll go put her hand into Alsatian dogs' mouths, German shepherds, all kinds of dogs, wherever, street dogs, anywhere. She'll put a hand right in the wrong place. Inside, either under the tail or inside the mouth only her hands will be. It'll be like a heart attack for me, but she will just manage and live with them. So in the house also, she'll only be going to those corners where there can be cockroach, this, that and all. Big bandicoot she saw. Somehow it came from downstairs. We are on the first floor. And she created, my God, rat is there, all around the house. She made a big fuss. We couldn't catch that fellow. She told me, it's big, it's like an elephant, she told. I said, okay, we'll see tomorrow morning. And okay, with that thing, we all slept. So she was sleeping between me and my husband. My son was in the other room. Or he was not there. He was not there. He was in hostel already. So all three of us were sleeping. Like I think early mornings, like 3 o'clock or something. There's a huge sound, like jam, like that kind of a sound. Now right before that sound happened, I have the habit of sleeping to a side. I was sleeping like this. Literally, I could feel somebody holding me and turning me over like this. Are you getting? When you shift your baby to the other side, literally I felt hands. 2 hands just held me like this and turned me. And as I was turning, I could feel something go past me and a huge sound, an explosion. Now, it's 3 in the morning, deep sleep. So by that with that explosion, when we got up, my husband says it's an earthquake. He said it's an earthquake, it's an earthquake. Some other place had an earthquake before that. So he said, no, we all have to go down. They say, no, you have to go out on the road, get off the building. He's like, come on, we have to go down. My daughter gets up shouting, rat, rat, rat. The rat has fallen, rat, rat. She's going paranoid, rat has come, rat is come. She's telling, rat is biting me. I said, shut up, there's no rat on the bed. She's like, rat has come and thrown something, this, that. She was in her own. And by the time we kind of realized, I noticed that the fan fell down. I have never heard a fan falling down. Even in movies, I have not seen it. I don't know how the fan fell. And it is not like my grandfather's age fan. In my father's house, there's a fan which is his great-grandfather's fan. You know, it will be tukku, tukku, krrrr. 5 you keep, 50 speed you keep. It will go no air, nothing. My father will not leave it. He will repair it. All my life I've lived under that fan. I hate that fan. That's a different thing. But I told you, according to me, my father is a miser, so he never throws away things. They wanted to give that fan after marriage. I said, please don't give it to me. No way. That's an antique piece. We can sell it to some museum. Don't give it to me. My husband said, I'll break that fan if it comes into the house. It's there somewhere on the, it's there still. They've preserved it. So it's not even that fan, okay? That fan is an antique fan. You don't even know which company it is, like that fan which they had in their house. Our fan, our house itself is new. We just got into that house, like 4 years old house, new house, everything is new. It's a new fan, branded fan. How can it fall down? It just fell down. And with inches it missed my leg. I was like this, it missed my left leg. And it barely like this, like a scratch, it went across my leg and just fell down. Inches. Imagine if I would have been, my leg is right under the fan, the position of the bed is like that. Imagine a fan which is running since 9 in the night. If it fell on my leg, what will happen? I would have been on the bed with a fracture or something on the leg for at least the next 3 months. And it's sitting next to us on the floor down, big fan, completely fallen down and broken. We were so shocked. One thing I realized when I got up is my hand was clutched, holding the mala, as always, and I know Swamiji physically was there in the room and he was the one who moved me. Now, I don't have a proof to this, but I know it. Because I felt somebody's hands literally move me like this. I'm telling you the truth as I'm telling it. And it's such a shock. Fan falling is such a strange thing it is. But it happened. Right? This was one incident. And I know, because of the mala, I know I'm constantly living with him. Like constantly, as if he's next to me. My conviction, I'm holding the mala in hand. He came, he just, moved me to the side and the fan fell. Everything happened at the same time. This happened in March that year, or March or April, summer. Now in winter, Diwali happens. The festival of lights, firecrackers, in India, like how much big a festival that is. Everywhere you will have firecrackers. All over the place. It will come, I think, later this month or next month, early next month, it's there. When is it? November 30th. Oh, 13th, 1-3. Till the tradition continues, everybody can use firecrackers of all types. Every house will be filled with bags and bags of firecrackers. You go to any Indian house around Diwali time, tom, toom, they'll be playing only. It will be crackers all over the house. Even when they have small children, no caution, nothing is taken. Happily, we live like that. So, Diwali time, we went to our in-laws' house, and there's one particular thing called pencil. Now, if you're in India, you'll know what I'm saying. There's a firecracker, its name is pencil. It looks like a pencil, pencil. So it's called pencil. Now, the pencil is such that when you light it, it will come like whoosh, like this. Big it will come. The holding pencil will be small, but the mouth, the way it emits the fire is quite broad. The range is broad. So actually you have to be very careful with it. So my daughter was holding this pencil and standing. This one, no, she was very scared of firecrackers. Till her 4th year, I still remember every Diwali, she and me will be locked up with all doors locked inside the bedroom. We'll be cuddled up in one corner of the room. She'll be holding me tight. She's somehow very scared of crackers. Makes me feel that she must have been a dog or something, because usually animals are very scared of crackers. And this one is very close to animals. I used to think, Pakka, she's some animal related thing only in the past life, I used to think. Anyway, so this was the first year she came out openly, and all she would do is hold long stick will be there at 1 kilometer away, there will be one small spark, she will hold that, because that's the capacity she has. So we were encouraging, okay, good, at least this much she is doing. My son, on the contrary, can hold a hydrogen bomb, this bomb in his hand, and on his palm he'll burst it. He is opposite. But this one is opposite. Seeing others, she will faint. Oh, she'll do all the drama. Anyway, she was holding that pencil. And she was not even holding it directly. I told you, we tied it to some 1 kilometer long stick, and that end is that pencil. She's holding that stick and standing. Somewhere it is burning, and she is happy, she's not scared. And she herself is very careful, and like that she's holding. Then she turns towards me. Now I'm wearing a silk sari. Always my mother-in-law will say, wear cotton sari, wear cotton sari. That day I wore a silk sari. My bad. So she turned with that pencil, she turned towards me to tell me something. Now that entire thing that happened just directly came onto my sari. In seconds, I was lit on fire. You know, as if if somebody is in a flame, top to bottom, what will happen? In seconds, there was only fire. They couldn't see me. Now, my only concern was, this one will get the engram, because already I was used to this whole technology, Swamiji's teachings, no? I'm like, close her eyes, take her away. I'm shouting that, because I didn't want my daughter to be exposed to fire in this way. And that becomes a fear, no? That's an incident which can impact her psyche. So I'm shouting, take her away. And she is frozen. And she's like, you're dying. And I told you, she's one drama queen. For like so one thing, she'll make it. And she's like, oh, she's dead. And she started crying, okay? I'm telling, first take her away, and I'm running. And actually, they say that when you are on fire, you should not run. But I wanted to run because she is seeing me more than anything else. And amidst all this, I know I'm holding the mala. Naturally, it had become such a habit for me. And I run into the lane. There's a small lane, every house, the side lane which is there, which goes to the backyard. I was in that lane. I just ripped apart the sari. It had every sari has actually some 10 pins. I pinned the sari everywhere. But I don't know how that came. Just by one fling, it's as if somebody just helped me take it out. It just came out. And nothing happened. Just one small patch here, some small strand of hair burnt. That's all. Of course, my husband was the first to reach me. He immediately bought a blanket and he folded me, because I had taken off the clothes. And then when I came inside, what I see, on one hand, my daughter, who's like inconsolably wailing, and on the other hand, my mother-in-law fainted. Now, I went and I am telling my mother-in-law, then she's saying, call ambulance. I said, you will need it. I am fine. She's not able. She is more than a mother for me than a mother-in-law. She actually fainted. And she, she like kind of had a panic attack. She was sweating and shivering, and this one is wailing, Mummy is dead. Now I'm telling, I'm alive. You are dead. She's holding me and crying, you died. I said, no, Shrikari, see, I shook her literally. See, I'm alive. I'm fine. And then she couldn't. She was in real shock. My mother-in-law was in a bigger shock. So then I settled both of them. We gave glass water they gave. I said, first give it to them. We sprinkled water on mother-in-law. She got up. And it's such an unbelievable thing, because they thought literally that fire was so high, they thought that I was burnt. But not a single thing. Oh, Swamiji's hand is there. I could see his hand this time, because I was awake. I could see something was there clearly between the fire and me. I couldn't feel the heat. How will it happen? When you are on fire, you wouldn't even feel the heat. I didn't feel the heat of the fire. I know there was clearly, I could see that protection happening between me and the fire. These are like real tangible things which have happened for me in my life because of the mala. So always, at all times, remember to keep the mala on you. Whether you put it outside or whether you put it inside doesn't matter. It's literally you're connected with Swamiji. That connection is kept live, and anything, you're stuck anywhere, you will see the correct guidance, the clearance happening for you from that situation in your life. And many people, have said so many things about the mala. There was this lady in Tamil Nadu who was one of our teachers earlier. So she used to take the Life Bliss Level 1 classes, and she was very deeply connected to Swamiji. So it happened so once that one day she was coming back from some place and it was very late. I think she took the last bus, like 11:30, 12 in the night. She was inside a bus. It's like a village place, right? And she was in the bus, and after she got into the bus, she noticed that only she was there. Some 2-3 others were there, men, and she could figure out that they were drunk, and the driver is there. That's all. She wanted the bus to stop. The bus did not stop. The driver did not listen, and these men are kind of coming towards her, and she knows it's not right. Now she doesn't have a chance to even jump out of the bus. The window, you can't jump out. She wanted to go to the door, they didn't allow her. So she knows, she just held the mala and said, Swami, help. I know I'm stuck here, help. And so happened, in the middle of the road, a policeman appears. A policeman who's a Sardarji. A Sardarji is a caste, it's a Punjabi guy. I don't know if you've seen Punjabis who wear turbans. To find a turban guy, a Punjabi guy in a South Indian village is extremely impossible. Because the last one you will find in a South Indian Tamil Nadu village is a Sardarji. Suddenly a Sardarji cop comes with the turban in an inspector dress, gets into the bus, stops the bus, gets into the bus and is standing there. Obviously the guys couldn't do anything. This woman gets down at her stop. The cop follows her, tells her, I will escort you, and literally goes till the doorstep. The woman goes inside, thanks the police, and over. The episode gets over there. She doesn't tell this to anyone. She doesn't tell this back to the ashram, nothing. Now months later, the Jayanti celebrations, January 1st, Swamiji's birthday celebrations, 10 days the celebrations, we do lot of things. There is one particular celebration where he comes in a chariot on that day. So he's coming in a procession from the temple to the main gate in Bidadi. And thousands of people come to watch Swamiji, to have darshan of the deities. It's like a festival time. So all the people, hundreds of them are standing on either side. This lady is also standing in one corner of that line, right? And the chariot is coming. It goes forward. Swamiji is in the chariot. He goes forward, notices that lady. She is bowing down and she's crying out of so much of happiness of seeing him. He goes little ahead, looks back and calls her like this. She goes running and he asks her, as soon as she goes near the chariot, he's asking her in Tamil, Ma, how was the Punjabi get-up? She got the shock of her life. He's directly looking into her eyes and asking her naughtily in Tamil, Ma, how was the Punjabi get-up? How was the look? She's looking at him and she doesn't know what to say. She has not shared this even with her people at home because it was so late that night. Somehow she told us later she didn't mention it to anyone. And he's asking her directly, how was the get-up? The Punjabi guy, how was he? And then she knows. We know who it was, right? So many incidents like this have happened with people. Miracles which have happened because of the mala. There was this one participant, I think either from France or Italy, one of them who had a robber in her house. A thief, a burglar entered the house and she and her son were there. Late night, midnight, enters the house, holds a knife, and he is about to attack her. And she wakes up and she kind of fumbles, right? From the bed she's fumbling for self-defense. She reaches out to the table to see if she can hold something and frighten this guy away, and she catches hold of the mala. Mala is there on the table. She just flings it into her hand, and this man is like, he becomes like a stone, frozen. This is not a story, this is real. That lady has given us a written testimonial of all this thing. You can't believe it with normal logic. The man, the thief, he froze in his place. With the knife, he became like this, like a stone. Then she got down from the bed, she pulled the child, and she kept the mala aside and took the phone. Again he moved, again she held the mala, again he stopped. Now it's difficult to believe, as I said, but it has happened. And the thief kept standing like that without being able to move when she was showing the mala towards him. She calls the cops come, they arrest the thief. Now when they go to the station, it's more fun. The thief registers a case on her saying she did some black magic on me because I could not move. She did something which did not allow me to move. He went and told about her. It's a different thing that he went for the purpose of, but he told this lady has done some black magic, she's a witch, something she's done which, how can I not move then? She has done something on me is what he told the police as a complaint. So that's why the mala is very powerful, very, very powerful. Any situation of your life, you feel you're stuck, you feel there's no other way, there's nobody else to help, low energy, you name it, the mala can fulfill that for you. So if you're already not wearing one, you can consider wearing one. It's very, very powerful. Practically, literally helps you, right? So anyway, these are few stories which I love telling in Healer's Initiation, because mala is really very powerful. And when you're especially healing others, it works very well when you have the mala on you. Why? Because the energy is so much there. As and when you do more and more healing, more and more and more energy is expressing through you. Then what happens? The mala acts like a perfect storage for that energy. And whenever you feel a dipping in your energy, automatically, just by holding the mala, you can get back the energy, because mala has that innate power of retaining energy and releasing it, right? So always know the sacredness of the mala. It's not just one more thing for superstition that we wear. It does physically a lot of good to your system. And especially if it is with Rudraksh, it's very, very powerful, very useful. All the beads, by the way, in the Galleria are good. The sandalwood beads, other beads that they have, everything is good. But Rudraksh seems to be the most powerful. You have a question, ma? Yes, ma.
The mala we wear, accidentally if it breaks by any chance, so what should be we would be feeling bad, it's like
No.
inauspicious and stuff. Is it
Nothing.
like that, or
It is not like that.
what has to be done? Can we take
Nothing.
another mala?
You can
and-
restring it if you can, or take another mala. Either which ways it works.
Okay.
There's nothing called inauspicious in the cosmos at all.
Okay.
Everything is auspicious in its own way. And breaking of a mala doesn't signify anything. Just like when a cat crosses you when you're coming out of the house does not mean anything, this also does not mean anything. So, connection with the Guru is not just because of one thread around your neck. This is only another thing that adds to the connection. That doesn't mean your connection with the Guru snaps away. No, doesn't. Other questions? Any other questions on anything we discussed so far? Or anything at all? Other questions? Yes.
Is there a Homa today?
No. Today we don't have the Homa. Tomorrow also we don't have the Homa. Day after tomorrow we have the Dhanakarshana Bhairava Homa. This is especially to attract wealth and abundance in your life. So if you're looking at the front of being abundant in the aspect of wealth, not just earning wealth but also being able to celebrate wealth in your life, you know, then you should be registering for this Homa. Dhanakarshana Homa is the, Akarshana is attraction, Dhana is wealth, is the Homa which has you attract wealth and prosperity into your life. So we will be invoking the energy of Dhanakarshana Bhairava. Bhairava is another energy of Lord Shiva. And Dhanakarshana Bhairava is specifically related to the dimension of wealth. So that energy will be invoked in the Homa Gunda, in the fire receptacle, and the Homa will be offered to that particular deity, to that energy. So that will happen day after tomorrow. So if you're interested, you can register and give names of yours and your family. You can register for the Homa. Okay? Other questions? So we are clear about the criteria, right? Everyone who's taking healing others, you're clear, no? What to do? Yes? What we are going to do is what? We are going to stop eating non-vegetarian food of any kind, every kind, solid, semi-solid, liquid, soup, any kind, every kind, chocolates, cakes, anything which has non-vegetarian items in it. Same way, stop alcohol of all kinds, in all forms, and tobacco, drugs of all kinds, in all forms. All of this needs to be avoided. Is this clear? And we take a commitment that we will every day do the Shakti Dharana meditation and Ananda Gandha meditation. So Shakti Dharana meditation I will be showing you now, which we will be doing today night. You have a choice. Either you can choose after darshan to stay back in this hall and do, or you can go home and do. What would you want to do? Go back and do also works. Stay back also works. Stay back and do means after one important, very important few things about Shakti Dharana I will share. Then you tell me whatever you want, we'll do that. So Shakti Dharana meditation is basically a meditation which aligns the energy flow inside your body. Very, very, very powerful. Whether you're a self-healer or a healer healing others, doesn't matter, this meditation is for everybody. And take it like a mandatory to do this meditation every night before you sleep. It's very useful, very important. Actually, when you get used to it, you will do it. It's like that. So this meditation actually increases your capacity to receive energy, your capacity to transmit energy, both. It works on both. Is this clear? Now there are certain rules for this meditation. When you do this meditation should ideally be the last thing you'll do for the day. Always it has to be the last thing. Meaning just before going to bed you should do this. Or in other words, after doing Shakti Dharana meditation, what is happening inside you is you become very sensitive. Why? Because that particular energy circuit in you is awakened, where the flow of energy is happening very rapidly and optimally. You are very susceptible and sensitive to injury. Do we understand this? It's very important, so please listen carefully. After Shakti Dharana, please don't do any activities like reading books, working on the laptop, not at all working with vegetables, cutting vegetables, not at all. No driving. You cannot drive after doing Shakti Dharana in the night. No driving, no cutting vegetables, no cooking, no washing utensils, no washing clothes, doing this, doing that, no doing anything. For how long? What? Till you sleep, that's all. Till the next day morning. Just sleep is what I'm saying. Including no physical intercourse. Including that you cannot do after Shakti Dharana. Do we get this? Finish off everything, including that job, and then only do Shakti Dharana. Now I have to tell the practical aspect of it, so I'm telling it. I'm telling it as a very matter-of-fact way. So please don't take it otherwise. My God, this batch actually has lesser questions. My God, what kind of questions people have asked, I cannot tell you. All kinds of questions people have asked. In the last batch, somebody asked, if I have a blood transfusion and the person from whom I am taking blood is an alcoholic, my God, will that blood running in my body do something to me? Things like that. And more funnier than that or weirder than that, one person asked, again, I'm giving a disclaimer, this is not to bring in some demeaning conversation. Practically, it was somebody's question. So you should forgive me if you feel it is offensive, okay? Somebody asked, if my girlfriend has drunk alcohol, can I smooch her? Then I said, no, you cannot. Ask her to wash her face, brush her teeth, let her be out of alcohol before you can do anything. If you want to do something, do it before she drinks. Literally, I had to say this. So things like this, right? So that's the reason I'm saying this batch is somehow really lot less on questions. So many kinds of questions people ask, very interesting questions. Anyway, so Shakti Dharana has to be done after all activities for your day and the night are done. You finish up everything, watching a movie, listening to music, books, everything else that you do before you go to bed, finish off everything. Let me finish, I'll come to your question, and then do this meditation. Meaning, the only thing you can do after Shakti Dharana is Ananda Gandha meditation. That's a beautiful thing that doesn't need any activity. You just have to lie down. So basically, you will do it on your bed and you will immediately get onto the pillow and you will be sleeping. That's how it's supposed to be done. Question?
What if you do it as part of your N-Kriya for your sadhana?
When you're doing it as a part of N-Kriya, it works differently. That's the only exception, which I was about to say anyways. There is N-Kriya actually, in which Shakti Dharana happens to be one of the steps. In that particular meditation, it is designed by him in a way, whenever you're doing N-Kriya, know very clearly you're directly doing it with Swamiji. So that is taken care of. That's the only exception you have. Otherwise, if you're doing Shakti Dharana as a standalone meditation, which you will have to do as a healer, do it last thing in the night. Is this clear? Other questions? So come, who will come to demonstrate? Premaya Maharaj. This is how you'll first kneel down. The first step is kneeling down in the position that you see him, like that. Now we'll not do it now. We'll just watch it now. Oh, for watching it you're kneeling down, then that's fine. So you will kneel down and then you will raise your arms facing the sky. The first step is raising your arms facing the sky, the way from above, from ether, from space you're collecting the energy and you're receiving it. Now you will see it starts happening. It happens in different ways, in different types of vibration. Maharaj, it's not overweight. Hello? Yeah, he's getting up and going. Hi. Shaya. Maharaj, wait. So, oh God. So that is Deepak, you must know. Imagine you're giving a demo and suddenly you walk away like this. You will not get up and go like that. So you will do that. You're supposed to do till I tell you. It's like a statue game. Maharaj, statue. Now you can't, if you know the game, you won't release till I tell you statue down again, okay? Okay. You will close your eyes, Maharaj. Thank you. Now don't move till I tell you. So you'll be like that, okay? Now your visualization is you're filling the cosmic energy into you. It's gushing into your body, right? The entire cosmic energy is gushing into you, filling your body completely, getting into you, and you're being fuller and fuller and fuller. You're expanding and exploding with that energy. After some time, which is different for different people. Now don't ask me, should I keep an alarm 1 minute, 20 seconds? No. There's no alarm. You will know in your system, right? How do you know you have to go to the washroom? Do you have any alarm which will say, hey, washroom time, come on, go. You have to go and empty yourself. No. Your bladder is full, you will know it. Anything you will not know, but that you will know. And how do you know your bladder is empty? You will know it. It will just stop. No? Like that. This is also like that. So at one point, you know you cannot hold it anymore. You'll literally be full of that experience and feeling of energy. At that point, you will completely bend down. Maharaj. You'll bend down, connecting with the earth, energy earth. Both your hands, your forehead will go down in this posture, completely down. You will rest your palms on, this you can do on your bed, as I said. On the bed itself, rest your palms, bow down, your forehead touching the bed or the mat, wherever you're doing it. Now visualizing, Deepak ji, ऐसा खड़े रहेंगे तो वो कैसे दिखेगा? Now you're visualizing all the energy is actually, you are transmitting the energy into the earth. You understand what I'm saying? So you will start experiencing becoming empty because the energy is now getting away from you. Do we get this? At one point you will feel completely empty. At that point you will again get up. Maharaj, up. Again, it's like a punishment for him. Again you will look up. Mela paranga. Mela. You look up, you will close your eyes and you will again be in the energy receiving posture from the cosmos, filling yourself again. When you're full, again you will bend down and give it. This. So it's just 2 steps, simple. One up, one down. One is filling yourself, one is emptying yourself with energy. Thank you. Let's acknowledge him. Do we get this? It's very simple. Very simple. Yes, I'll come to questions. Yet very, very powerful. You will do this 7 times. Okay, you will do this 7 times. Now if you forgot, is it 7th time, 8th time, don't bother. Just do it 7 times if you can count, or you do it, it will come. You will get used to 7 times cycle. 7 times is a cycle. Do it 7 times. After the 7th time, just lie down. Just lie down. You should be in a position to directly go to sleep. Don't even try to go, get up, go to the bathroom. Avoid everything. That's why I said finish all the activities for the day and the night. Most importantly, night activities. No night activities after Shakti Dharana. Okay, nothing at all. Finish everything, then do this. And then when you go to bed, get into Anandagandha meditation. We'll learn that on Monday evening, as I told you. Very simple. It's a beautiful meditation, visualization meditation, that also. And you will sleep. Now this you have to do every night before going to sleep. Is it difficult? Do you sleep every night? You do, right? So if you're sleeping, this is easy. Wherever you're sleeping, you will do this and sleep. So this is known as Shakti Dharana. Yes.
Does the tailbone, do you sit your tailbone on
Loudly
the heels?
into the mic.
Do you sit your tailbone into the heels?
Do you what? Tailbone? What about the tailbone?
Your tailbone go on the heels, because he had it up.
Yeah, it can't go to the heels if you're putting it down. No? The position, that doesn't matter, actually speaking.
And what was my other?
What matters is that you have to, your palms should be completely, Aditya, మీరు ఒకసారి రండి చేయండి మళ్ళీ. I forgot you are here. చూసావా మాయా మిథ్య ఎదురుగుండా మనిషి కూడా నేను చూడలేకపోతున్నానంటే ఎలా ఉంది పరిస్థితి. See like this, right? Your palms and your forehead should be completely touching the ground. When I say ground, it means the bed on which you're doing, or if you're doing it on the floor or a mattress, wherever you're doing it.
And in a surrender mood.
Yes. When you're down, it is absolutely, you're emptying, you're surrendering everything to the Mother Earth. And when you're going up, You will kneel down, facing your head up, your palms up, with your eyes closed, in a mood to receive. Completely you will feel the energy being pushed into you from the ether, from the space, from the cosmic etheric space. So you will sit with that receiving mood. We get this?
So when you
Thanks, Aditya.
when you surrender, your toxins go with it.
When I surrender to my toxins, go away.
When you receive the energy, and then when you surrender,
When I'm surrendering, the energy is what is being transmitted to Mother Earth. Basically, there is no me here. If you do it continuously, you will know you are empty. You become so hollow and empty. It is just energy circle happening between ether and earth, ether and earth, ether and earth. You
And-
understand what I'm saying? My phone mouth on there.
Yes. And you said the last thing to do would be this, and then do Ananda Gandha
Right.
meditation.
Ananda Gandha doesn't need you to sit also. You can lie down and do it and sleep.
What if, because I have a
Hmm.
2-minute chakra closing meditation. Do I do that?
You practice
be
some other meditation is what you're saying?
It's to close the chakras before going to sleep. Would I do that before or
Yes.
after? Before, right?
Before.
Okay.
Yes, will you guys show me what you saw? Kneel down. Kneel down. What are the steps? Just 2 steps, isn't it? Yes. Kneel down with your palms up, your head looking up, eyes closed, and visualizing that energy happening to you. We are not doing the meditation now because we have a lot of things following this, so we will not do this now, but I'm just looking at whether you got it. Then once you finish the cycle of filling energy, go down, bow down, right? Don't do it now, Akhilama, so immediately bow down. Don't get into the meditation now. Bow down and empty it to the earth. Once you're empty, you will be back again doing it up.